History is often written to glorify Europe's kings and queens, its revolutions and its wars. But there are empires and stories that rival anything ever told about Rome or Britain, tales that resound with the power of innovation, bravery, and endurance. One of these stories is that of the Kingdom of Dahomey, a state that rose in West Africa, in the region of present-day Benin, and endured for centuries as a cultural and military powerhouse. At its heart lay a force so unique, so fearsome, that even European colonizers, armed with rifles, cannons, and arrogance, trembled at the sight of them. They were called the Amazons of Dahomey, the world's only documented all-female military corps in modern history. This is their story, a saga of blood, brilliance, survival, and legacy. The Kingdom of Dahomey was not born in isolation. Like many African kingdoms, it was shaped by migration, conflict, and the search for survival in a competitive landscape. Its roots can be traced to the Aja people, who migrated from Tado in present-day Togo around the early 17th century. Settling in the Abomey Plateau, they established a centralized monarchy that would grow into Dahomey. Oral traditions credit its founding to King Hawik Baja around 1645, who built the foundations of political organization, military structures, and religious rituals that bound the kingdom together. Dahomey was more than a political entity. It was a cultural identity, tied to land, ancestors, and spirits. Its kings claimed divine legitimacy, with rituals designed to tie the throne to the gods. Annual festivals, such as the Exwatanu, involved elaborate sacrifices, dances, and pageantry, reinforcing the king's authority while honoring the spirits. The people were organized into hierarchies that blended nobility, commoners, warriors, and slaves. Yet within this rigid order was space for innovation and adaptation. The rise of the Amazons is one of Dahomey's greatest innovations. Their origins remain debated. Some historians argue that they began as huntresses, women trained to protect villages and royal compounds when men were absent on campaigns. Others say they were elephant hunters, known for their unmatched bravery and strength. What is certain is that by the late 17th or early 18th century, Dahomey's kings began organizing these women into a formalized military corps. Over time, they would grow from palace guards into a standing army, numbering between 4,000 and 6,000 soldiers at their peak. To European eyes, the very idea of female warriors was shocking. European explorers, traders, and missionaries, steeped in patriarchal traditions, struggled to comprehend how women could not only serve as soldiers, but dominate battlefields. They called them Amazons, borrowing the term from Greek mythology, but to the Dahomey themselves they were known as Ananmaton, meaning our mothers. Far from an anomaly, they were an integral part of Dahomey's social and political system. The training of the Amazons was brutal, designed to harden them into elite soldiers. Young girls were recruited, often as teenagers, and subjected to a regime of physical endurance, weapons training, and psychological conditioning. They learned to handle machetes, muskets, and later rifles, to march long distances without food or water, and to fight with unflinching ferocity. Discipline was absolute. Celibacy was enforced. Once initiated, the women became wives of the king, devoted entirely to military service. Their loyalty was to the throne, not to individual families. The rituals of initiation were equally intense. Stories describe how recruits were forced to scale thorny walls, fight each other to exhaustion, or kill captives as proof of their readiness. This was not cruelty for cruelty's sake, but a deliberate process to erase fear and build solidarity. The Amazons were not just fighters. They were a symbol of the kingdom's power, a living embodiment of Dahomey's defiance. Their reputation grew through warfare. The Kingdom of Dahomey was a militaristic state, expanding its power through conquest and raiding. Wars were fought for territory, prestige, and increasingly, captives for the Atlantic slave trade. The Amazons participated in these campaigns, often serving as shock troops at the front lines. European observers recorded their ferocity in battle, noting how they charged fearlessly, wielding blades and muskets with deadly skill. In the 18th and 19th centuries, they fought against rival kingdoms such as Oyo, and later against French colonial forces. One of their most famous leaders was King Gizo, who ruled from 1818 to 1859. Gizo transformed Dahomey into a formidable power, centralizing authority and modernizing the military. Under his reign, the Amazons grew in number and prestige. Gizo's reliance on them demonstrated their importance not just as warriors, but as political actors. They became his loyal enforcers, protecting the throne from internal rivals and external threats alike. Their influence extended into court politics, where their voices carried weight in matters of war and governance. The Amazons' reputation reached new heights during the Franco-Dahomean Wars of the late 19th century. When French colonial ambitions pushed into West Africa, Dahomey stood as one of the fiercest resistors. In 1890 and again in 1892, the French launched campaigns to subdue the kingdom. They faced not only male warriors but the disciplined ranks of the Amazons. French officers were stunned at the courage of these women who fought to the death rather than surrender. Accounts describe Amazons engaging in hand-to-hand combat, ambushing French columns and even attempting to capture cannons with bare hands. But European firepower proved overwhelming. The French wielded repeating rifles, artillery, and machine guns, technologies that even the best-trained Amazons could not match. Thousands died in the battles, their blood staining the soil around Dahomey. By 1894, the kingdom had fallen, and Dahomey was incorporated into French West Africa. The Amazons, who had stood as the kingdom's fiercest defenders, were disbanded. Many were killed, others assimilated into colonial society, their legacy fading into whispers. Yet their story did not die. The memory of the Amazons lived on in oral traditions, songs, and folklore. Even French officers, who had fought against them, wrote with grudging admiration about their bravery. In the 20th century, their story resurfaced as part of African nationalist pride, a reminder that women had always played central roles in the continent's history. The Amazons became symbols of resistance, courage, and female empowerment, their legend growing with each retelling. The legacy of Dahomey and its Amazons is complex. On the one hand, the kingdom prospered through participation in the Atlantic slave trade, capturing and selling captives to European traders. This dark chapter cannot be ignored. The Amazons, as part of the military machine, were complicit in this system, raiding neighboring communities and supplying captives. On the other hand, the Amazons also represent one of history's most striking examples of women in power, challenging global assumptions about gender roles. Their existence reminds us that African history is not a single story, but a tapestry of contradictions, glory and tragedy, innovation and exploitation. Today, the Amazons of Dahomey inspire global imagination. They have appeared in novels, films, and academic studies. Most recently, they inspired the fictional Dora Milaje in Marvel's Black Panther and the 2022 film The Woman King. While dramatized, these portrayals highlight the fascination and respect the Amazons continue to command. They are more than relics of the past. They are cultural icons, reminders of the strength and resilience of African women. Archaeology and memory continue to preserve their story. The royal palaces of Dahomey, now UNESCO World Heritage Sites, hold murals and relics depicting warriors, rituals, and conquests. Oral historians in Benin recount tales of their bravery, while scholars analyze their place in global history. The Amazons were not isolated curiosities. They were part of a broader Dahomean system of governance, religion, and identity. To understand them fully is to understand the complexities of Africa's past. The Kingdom of Dahomey, with its Amazons at the forefront, challenges the Eurocentric narrative of Africa as a passive victim of history. Dahomey was proactive, sometimes ruthless, often brilliant, and always resilient. Its women warriors stood on the front lines of resistance, proving that power knows no gender. Their story forces us to rethink what we know about war, leadership, and courage. In the end, the Amazons of Dahomey were not mythical. They were real women, flesh and blood, who lived, fought, and died for their kingdom. Their songs may have faded, but their spirit endures. And in their story, we find a truth larger than history itself, that power, courage, and legacy are not bound by gender, but by the will to fight for what one believes in.